I can hear you very well.
Yeah, I think it's good we get it started now to keep up with time. And I know people want to take some rest today before resuming work tomorrow.
Yes.
So how are you doing today? You are looking so glamorous. I wish English should I use now.
Anyway, so Waliu, yes. I'm good. So Waliu, today is a very interesting one. I mean, today's series is a very interesting one. And I will leave you to introduce. For the purpose of those that are just joining in, I would like you to introduce what the Workers' Mental Health Safety Series is all about, and our respective interests. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. We welcome all our listeners to this wonderful episode of Mental Health and Safety Series. Our Mental Health and Safety Series is basically to address issue of that has to do with the mental state of workers, their mental well-being, mostly in the workplace, because our workplace is filled with a lot of activities, emotional, psychological, physical. Most times in the workplace, we tend to focus our attention on the physical part of it, and we tend to ignore the psychological, the emotional, and the mental side of it, which the mental state of workers, we try to ignore it so much, and that's why we have this series. And in as much as the physical aspect leads to low productivity, same thing happens to the emotional, the mental aspect too. It also leads to loss of productivity, and that's why we have this session, so as for us to discuss issues that surround mental wellness and how it affects the organization and the nation at large. As you all know, my name is Waliu Adegoke, and I'm the co-anchor of this beautiful series. As you all know me again, yes, I know my beautiful lady to be a lawyer, a legal practitioner, and I'm your one and only, just put that only, make sure the only is there, your one and only safety professional. Thank you very much. Over to you, Bumi. What do you have today?
Okay, so today we'll be discussing the topic on workers' mental first aid. Mental first aid, yeah. And the most important question, the question of the day is, if it happens that a co-worker or a colleague at work starts to display signs of a mental condition, I'm going to address something because Mr. Eden, during the course of preparing for this session, had said we shouldn't use the word insanity, or we shouldn't use the word mental illness because of the sensitivity in those words. People trying to label, or people trying to, and then it affects people with such issues to be able to come out to speak because of the way it's been labeled, So he has spoken about that, and I will let him say more about it. But there is still a legal issue around that. There's still an issue around that, which we'll be discussing in the course of this, which we'll be having in the course of this discussion. Anyway, so the issue is, what would you do if your colleague shows a sign of mental condition at work? We see these things happen. I don't know how it has been addressed by organization. If a colleague if a co-worker displays such, it could be really aggressive. It could affect the other workers' body harm, even use of abusive words, irrational behaviors. It could affect other workers at work. What are organizations in Nigeria, what are workplaces in Nigeria putting in place for this? And you as a worker, how much knowledge on how to react or how to address this issue do you have? How much knowledge of it do you have? And what are you going to do if you are placed in that kind of situation? That is what this discussion is all about. And the comment section is open. If you want to ask a private question, the question box is also open for you to send in your question and to be addressed in the course of this discussion. Most importantly, you also need to know that we have a mental health expert in our midst, Mr. Ide, and he'll be coming in shortly after myself and Waliu have tried to address these issues, taking questions to the best of our ability. We will leave the floor open to him for him to address even more issues around mental health in the workplace, specifically on the thing on first aid mental first aid. You know, we all know about the medical first aid, the normal medical first aid, but I'm not sure if we're aware of what they call mental first aid. If we're aware that there could be a department for that, if you're aware that as a worker in the workplace, you could actually be trained for that. I do not know if we are all aware of that, and this is an opportunity to also learn and share our views. So over to you, Waleed.
Yes, thank you very much. You know why I'm actually excited for this episode is because we have a professional in the field with us. Not only a professional when it comes to mental health, but a professional in safety. So it is not an issue of 2 against 1. We the safety professionals against one single lawyer. So it's better you find a lawyer in the next series so that you'll be able to overcome us. But today we are overcoming the legal aspect of it. So that is just by the way. Talking about the topic of today, like you said, people are aware of the medical part, the physical part, the medical part of first aid, where you give the first treatment you give to someone if he falls, if he has an injury or falls into coma. But when it comes to psychological part, the emotional part, the mental part of it, we barely understand what it means. And when we talk about mental first aid, it's quite different from the physical first aid, because in this case, you are giving emotional support, emotional comfort to that person till a professional comes in. But what are those things that can warrant you to talk about mental, that can warrant you to say, okay, an organization should have a department for mental health? Let's say, for example, in the workplace, someone received a shocking news, like maybe his son died, or mom had an accident, or a sad news, a sudden sad news. At that moment, the person can collapse. At that moment, the person can have seizure. At that moment, the person can go through an emotion, a sort of depression that can immediately affect that person. So having a kind of mental health first aider or first aid department to address that issue, I think is very paramount. And that is the immediate part of it. But the long-term part of it is the continuous depression that happens when someone falls into this category. It might not be issue of sad news. It can be issue that is lasting for a period of time. Maybe someone just got divorced, or someone just passed through a particular stage in life and is not feeling himself like supposed to be. Someone that is always excited in the workplace, for example, is always happy. Then suddenly he starts. You see him being seclusive, being idle, trying to be alone, not concentrating at work. All these things can have a later effect in the organization. If you remember, if you know very well, I talk about productivity. If there is lack of concentration in the workplace, if your worker is not concentrating based on what he's facing, not physically, not a physical injury, but emotionally, he's not going to concentrate. He's not going to give his time to the work. In fact, it can even lead to negative productivity, because at the end of the day, when there's lots of concentration in the workplace, it can actually lead to injuries. Imagine in the workplace when you are talking about construction, and someone who is a scaffold inspector or a scaffold director who works at height got maybe the previous week got the bad news, and you don't have a department to actually counsel, support, and guide that person and comfort that person. At the end of the day, working at height alone, losing concentration can make him to fall, and it will lead to a secondary issue. So the issue of having this emotional, I keep using the word emotional because that is where the bulk of it comes in. I know my Oga will actually shed more light on it. So looking at this aspect, there is a need for medical first aid, and there's a need for mental health first aid. What are the symptoms of this mental health first aid? We have the issue of alcoholism, someone who doesn't drink in the workplace, or someone who we know very well, maybe his close ally in the workplace, now observes that he's now drinking too much of alcohol. I have a personal experience that happened last year. To me personally, it got to a stage that I was feeling somehow, that I wasn't feeling myself. I was like, I was just wasting my time, wasting my energy. I wasn't feeling what, when you are expecting something based on the energy you're giving, and you are not seeing the same energy. There's a reason why I'm saying this now. You're not seeing the same energy. There's a kind of negative thoughts that comes into your mind. That is where the mental state comes in. When you now have someone in your workplace who you can relate this to, like a trained mental health first aider to counsel you, it will actually revive that spirit in you. And that is what I actually had. Assuming there was no one to talk to at that time, maybe we won't be talking about this now. So what we are talking in essence is that the same way we are having a medical state, medical first aid, there should also be availability of mental first aid in the workplace. So there are a lot of symptoms, like I said, sad mood, alcoholism, depression, someone not feeling the way you should feel, thinking of death, a lot of things that surrounds your workers' mental health and well-being. So a department has to be in safety. There's what we call behavioral-based safety. Yeah, we call it BBS. So it's an aspect of BBS. When you try to observe your workers, there are some people that volunteer themselves to observe workers in the department to know if a worker is actually deviating from his normal behavior. Then you try to counsel. That is when those first aiders come into play, so that when a worker is actually not doing what's supposed to do the way he does it, they can actually observe and give counsel. And I think there are a lot of things concerning that. Lastly, I would say, as little as this thing actually seems, in the UK, it's recorded that over 70 million man-hour, okay, maybe man days, working days, maybe I shouldn't use working days, let me use in amount, over 2.5 billion euros is being lost each year to mental health, to mental issues in the workplace. It's not until somebody runs mad. It's not somebody runs mad. Based on loss of concentration, they lost it 2.5 billion. That is actually going to, that is almost going to a trillion, more than 3-4 trillion naira. That is enough to build more than 100,000 of hospitals in Nigeria. So what are we saying? A lot of money being lost, even in the organization, due to lack of the ability to observe your workers and to understand their mental health and to put a first aid in place to be able to address these things. And that is where I will stop for now. But we're talking about the safety point of view. You as a lawyer, when it comes to the legal point of view, I observe that we have our professional in the building. We have Mr. A in the building, and we also have Mr. Dapo Molade. I can see him clearly. He joined us. I'm very happy to see him. He's one of our top professionals in Nigeria. Thank you, sir, for coming. So when it comes to, I can
also see a comment from Salt. Sorry, I can also see a comment from Salt. That's my big auntie. Auntie Judges here. I can see a comment from her. She said, "Mental first aid. I'm intrigued. First time I'm hearing the term." Yeah, and this is the reason why we're actually bringing it to the forefront. We think that as important as it is, people are not aware of the serious need for it, and that's why I come in as a lawyer. You see, it's good to look at it from, I would start with what has law got to do with it? Yes, law has a lot to do with everything. You also need to look at it from the legal point of view, the implication. Take, for example, we have different issues that we address. I mean, issues come up before you go to the court. Issues come up before you get lawyers to address it. So I'll give an hypothetical issue, and I'm sure there are real-life issues around it. Take, for example, a colleague at work, starts acting irrational, and in the process of, in the process of that irrational behavior, injures another person, that even leads to the death of another. Maybe someone comes to work with a gun because he's depressed or is mad or angry and has some mental condition, which is very possible. I mean, it has been happening even in the US, and kills another employer. What happens? Does the position of the law, does it change the fact that an insane person, when the person is pleased insanity and is proven, I mean, the judge accepts the plea of insanity, does it change the fact that that insane person will not be prosecuted, will not be sent to jail? The person will be sent to mental home. The person will be confined to mental home. I'm saying this in the simplest form so that I don't want to use the word layman, so that non-lawyers can understand it. So the thing is, the person who pleads insanity after the act, considering what has happened before and after, if the judge accepts that plea, he's not going to bring the dead back. They're just going to confine him to mental home. He's not going to change anything. It doesn't matter whether it happened at work.
In Yoruba, we say law. In Yoruba, we will say law. And in English, in the word of English, we say one spanner loss. But the work still continues.
So nothing changes. Nothing changes from the, from the courts. Nothing. It doesn't affect the decision of the courts in any way, you know. And then secondly, when that happens, who is responsible? Can you hold the employer responsible? And if you're going to hold the employer responsible, whether for injury of another colleague or for death, which can actually happen, to what extent will the employer of labor be responsible? To avoid all these stories, in medical parlance, they say prevention is better than cure, right?
Yeah.
We address issues as lawyers, but I'm a different kind of lawyer, I would say. You know, I also believe in preventive law, if there's anything like that. Prevention is actually better. You can actually address things before it happens. We should now see how important or how relevant mental first aid is at work. Yeah. How do you identify a worker that is already having a mental condition, and how do you manage it? Yeah. This is where Mr. A is coming up to give us all the necessary details, everything we need. But now we've been able to see and able to address how important this is. Yes, Wali, I can hear you.
He said, we have a comment here from Mr. Dakwamolade. He said, he said, mental illness is a silent killer in the workplace. It is time we began to create more awareness and structure to manage this, which is actually very true. The same way we create various departments for a lot of things, we should create a department to address the issue of mental first aid. While we wait for Mr. Eyi to come, I think it should signify if he's ready, so that I will excuse, because Instagram has not given us opportunity to have 3 people online immediately. So I will sacrifice myself. I will disappear for the moment while we'll invite him over. But before I go, I would like to say something. What are the other reasons why we need to address the issue? How do we address the issue of mental first aid? It's all about listening to the feelings and the fears of the person. It's as simple as that. It's not a very big thing that it looks like we have to spend $1 billion on, but it's something that even with the little that we can create in our department, with that little department, with that little in one side of our department, only 1 or 2 persons or 3 who will be first aiders in mental health, it goes a long way. They can do other things, but that department should be available. That you just give a kind of try to listen to the person, his fears. That actually gives them a kind of rest of mind, and at the same time, they give simple information on how to move on. Normally, the person will be able to think about it, but because of the state he is, he can't be able to think. So we think for him and give him advice. Then the industry or the organization should be ready to assist the person at every point in time. Remember, we have normally in emergency, we have our 3 C's, which is to check, to call, and to care. So to check is to check on your worker. If there's an emergency, to check what's happening to the person. Same thing applies to this mental first aid. Check, observe, have your chart for behavioral-based safety. Check your workers. Then if there's a need to call for external help, call for external help. But before the help comes, give them a kind of care. Let them feel that yes, they belong to this organization. So having that kind of mindset will actually reduce the level of trauma, the level of depression that they face. Because I will not lie to you, a lot of people are facing a lot of depression. They are facing trauma based on issue of mental health. And some mental health can be negative. That is being calm, being seclusive. Some mental health can be aggressive, like you said, being angered. Yeah. Like the picture that you showed me and also went online, went viral, of a girl who took a gun to school to shoot to attempt shooting a teacher because he told her to not to dye her hair. Similar thing can happen in the workplace. Similar thing can happen in the workplace.
Let me also add to what you just said. Further investigation showed that girl is in a relationship with a married man, and the married man comes into her parents' house, her mother's house. They didn't talk about her father. So she has underlying issues, family issues and all that. She might just be a disturbed child, that they didn't pay attention to. So this is how it happens in the workplace as well. There are people who are really disturbed that there's not been any observation, like check. I just learned something from what you said. There's not been any observation on their mental health. The workers, unfortunately, some employers of labor are just concerned about, you know, do the work and just get paid and just go, you know. And what they don't realize is that it affects productivity. It causes decline in productivity. So what they're actually aiming at is almost like penny wise, pound foolish at the end of the day, because they lose.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So,
yes.
Mr. Here, have you sent him?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken,
yeah,
have you sent him?
I think you need to go off first, then I will invite him.
Okay, so I will do that now. So thank you for listening. Please be patient with us while we invite our other speaker to join us in this wonderful discussion. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So it's good to pay respect to whom, pay honor to whom honor is due. So for that, I would need to read out Mr. Eden's profile before he comes in. Mr. Eden is an occupational health and safety consultant of over 22 years practical experience. He has spent his first 11 years in the clinical environment, a doctoral fellow working in workplace health and wellness promotion as study area. Mr. Eden works as a chief executive officer at Occupational Health and Safety Managers and also the head of faculty, OSH University, and the president of OSH Africa. Mr. Eden is a regional ambassador to Patient Safety Movement Foundation and also a workplace mental health ambassador. Mr. Eden is a steering committee, European Network Education and Training in Occupational Safety and Health, and a member of the Expert Working Group on Occupational Safety and Health of African Union. So I'll be bringing in Mr. Eden to continue with the discussion on workers' mental first aid at work. Yeah, so waiting for Mr. Eden. Mr. Eden, I don't know what I'm saying. Eden, Mr. Eden is coming. Hope there's no problem with his network. Mr. Eden, are you there? Okay. Yes, I can see his comment. Mr. Eden, please, I've sent you an invite. I've sent you an invite. Yeah. He's not able to join in. Well. I've sent you an invite, sir. You see an invite on your screen. Just click accept to join in. Okay. Hello, Mr. Eden. Good afternoon.
Good evening, and how are you?
Fine.
Okay, thank you for inviting me, and it feels so excited to be here. Yeah. I've seen a couple of my colleagues also on the online, and a very insightful topic you have chosen today, and this is one thing that don't look at in most workplaces. But I'm happy to hear that this is being discussed here today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. So, over to you, Mr. Eden. The floor is open. We are waiting to hear so much about this mental first aid. This mental first aid is quite very new to us, and a lot of people are really waiting to hear. They're eager to hear.
Yeah, okay, let me start by making a quick correction. It's not mental first aid, it's mental health first aid.
Yes.
Mental health first aid. This is kind of support, mental health support that we offer in the workplace to people who have mental health conditions before we can have an expert arrival that will take that case further from there. And this is very important in the workplace, because if you follow the data as shared by ILO, it is less than 20% of what happens in the workplace that are classified as accidents in the workplace, and over 80% of the employees' health, well-being, and illness conditions are non-classified as accidents, and they come under underlying issues within the workplace that are aggravated. Most times they are that cover. One of them is what we regard to as psychosocial issues, which of course is clearly linked with mental health. And this is a very crucial issue, and I think one of the key issues why these were not brought to the forefront early enough. If you even look at the ILO, from the ILO perspective, some classification of illness were not classified as occupational illness till the year 2010. And one of such issues was also issues that had to do with mental health, because it wasn't seen as, we focus more on accidents, but there were other underlying issues that were spiraling in the workplace that we couldn't classify as occupational accidents. Things like ergonomics. Ergonomics was not classified as a workplace health issue until about 2010. And this is where the employees' mental health also falls in. Then we must also go back to look at it from even the point of even mental health legislation. I mean, which of course it's an issue I hear you mention earlier on. Across many countries in Africa, mental health has not been fully legislated for, let alone looking at workplace mental health. If you look at what we use for a very long time, which of course I mentioned to you in the literature we had sometime within the week, it's called the Lunatic Ordinance of 1916, and that was crafted by colonial masters. It was crafted in 1916. I think it got repealed to 1968 or so. 1968 or so it got repealed, but even at that, it still does not have those issues that look at mental health in its full capacity. I thought it was only in Nigeria, but when I was in the meeting on mental health, I realized across Africa we have the same issues. Talk of Ethiopia, talk of South Africa. I mean, South Africa is even doing. We talk of Ghana, Uganda. We all having the same issues. I think first thing we have to start doing is to start bringing mental health to the front line. Let people know that it's a clear occupational health issues, and we need to start advocating for legislation. Yes, now we have the chance to do that because we're looking at Nigerian. I mean, everybody's advocating for occupational and safety legislation, but we also have to look at clearly what place does mental health, employees' mental health occupy in that legislation. What we're doing in Australia, one of the key things we're doing is reviewing the legislation of all the 54 African countries. One key thing we found out was that issues that are very paramount, mental health, informality of work, were never captured. So one of the things, that was a big decision. And one of the things we're looking at is see how we can actually have a common occupational health legislation that governs Africa, where mental health will take a front page, be at the front page, because we have such key issues that happen to us in the workplace that actually indicators of mental health condition. But let me settle into the topic proper. You know, when we talk of mental health first aid, it is difficult to say we give mental health first aid, but when we are doing that, what we are doing, we're only looking at mental health from the surface cause. Mental health from the root cause, because before somebody have issues as panic attack, anxiety disorder, it's a build-up cumulatively, I mean, to where the person gets to, there's hardly issue at what you call mental health onset. These are issues that build up over time, and we know, and that's why those that have followed my LinkedIn discussion lately, I was trying to bring this issue stylishly, and I started a discussion that's called who takes the minutes of the minutes. What I mean is everything that happens, when you talk of minutes of the minutes, what really happened, who observed it, who noted those issues and act on it before they become issues that run out of control. So we should, as a matter of fact, all of us should be mental health ambassadors in the workplace. And this cannot happen until we are able to, as an organization, you don't look for the country to legislate mental health. If you are a modern thinking of organization that look at the well-being of employees and look at how this actually undermine your productivity, look at what's called best global practice, sit on it, institute a mental health legislation, let it be a part of your corporate safety policy. Let's start discussing the truth. Let's start opening what you call conversation on mental health, because as of today, mental health is discussed on that wrap. It's discussed like, I mean, this was how we discussed Indian hemp many years ago. So Indian hemp became something that we couldn't control. Let's open it up. Indian hemp is Indian hemp. These are the effects. But when we start talking about mental health, nobody wants to talk about it, because we also have, the more we discuss it, the more people get to understand that it's just another health condition. And more people get to understand that, yes, I have this issue, I can open up to talk to people that where I can get support. But when you start those conversations, what it does is that it helps you to destigmatize mental health until you are able to discuss it like how we discuss malaria, typhoid in the workplace. The first place to start is let's first start having, just like we are doing right now, having conversation on mental health. It's a critical issue. It affects workers, it affects even anybody in the street. But when we focus on mental health at work, let's start the conversation and discuss it, and let's try and normalize issues for people, because sometimes even management system are also fueler or driver of mental health conditions amongst employees. I mean, looking at the burden of work amongst employees, people running excessive work hours, people running themselves beyond their coping capacity. I mean, if you follow reports, you look at the lady that died sometime last year or 2 years ago in Japan, where workers are often beyond their regular hours. She knew she was going to die. She has logged in more than 48 hours non-stop. And I mean, what do you expect? She knew. She said, I feel like dying. I feel I'm going to die. The next thing, she died. And these are all mental health issues that are aggravated by the work conditions. So let me stop here and hear from you. Okay.
So, Mr. Eli, another thing, I mean, one very important question, and to what extent do you think we can actually start this? We can, apart from the conversation I believe in doing, how do you think this will work? Because it's something that happens day in, day out. A colleague showing signs of mental illness at work that is affecting other colleagues who do not have that kind of condition, you know. And I wanted to say something also about the stigmatization. Yes, truly it exists. Even it starts with our legislation, the way it's been named. You know, the other time you said, no, we shouldn't use insanity. We should use mental health condition. Really, as a lawyer, what the law tells me, I mean, the way the law told me when I was learning the law is insanity. And even the way the law addresses it is like the training that is needed, the awareness that even the judges, the judges need to be able to address and rule on issues relating to mental health. I'm not sure they have it, because the thing is, the law says on issues of insanity, when there's a plea of insanity, the person with the mental health condition, or the law says insanity, should be confined to a mental home. There's no follow-up. What's the procedure?
Okay.
Then what happens to the victim of his actions in the workplace? What happens to the employer of labor? Are they making them responsible? Is the employer of labor responsible enough? Has the law actually made them responsible enough to be able to respond to issues of mental condition of their workers ahead of time so that it doesn't affect other colleagues at work? Because it's a very serious issue. Imagine an innocent person going to work, is okay, fine, bodily wise, everything, and comes back, a breadwinner comes back with injury, serious injury at work from a colleague with a mental health condition or even loss of life. It's very serious. It's as serious as safety issues at work. I mean, from my own layman, when it comes to safety, from my own point of view, as a human being, I know it's a very, very serious issue. So how do you think, what's your recommendation? Now, we asked the question, what would you do if your colleague suddenly shows signs of mental condition? With what we have now, with the apparatus we have, with the situation now, what would you expect a colleague at work? I mean, in your workplace, in my own workplace, what would you expect the reaction to? And what is your recommendation on that for employers of labor as well?
Okay, thank you so much, Bumi. Firstly, one of the key issues that we have in the workplace is that we detect mental health conditions when it becomes so late. Mm. There are earlier signs that we ought to look at or that we don't finally miss. And at the time we are detecting that this is a mental health condition, it's almost becoming so late. But I think the clear issue is, let's first establish the fact that when you employ a person, by extension, you have employed the family and the family members. That's how we should take the issue of employment. And this is in the sense that when someone, an employee of yours, when his wife or her husband or his spouse is not well, that employee cannot perform optimally. That is the truth. So when we are employing somebody, understand the fact that invariably you are employing the family members alongside. But let's come back to what should you do. The truth is, you can't manage who you don't know, and that's where we look at, let every staff be adequately profiled, and that is where we look at HRO and employee relations managers. Let every employee be adequately profiled, because I give you an example. Someone who used to log in at 7 o'clock every day or 8 o'clock every day has worked about 4 years in that company, has never come to work late for once, but all of a sudden you see that person coming to work at about 8:30, 9 o'clock, is not coming to work late. Somebody who used to dress super and plain, and now you see him flying shirts. First thing is not to just first fly a query and why you're not coming to work late. And that's how we manage it here. And that's one of the areas where we miss. So the first thing is we have to see how we can engage that employee, because like I said earlier on, mental health issues that happen in the workplace is a build up of so many things before you now start having such a worst case scenario. Firstly, look at open a discussion with that person as either a colleague or a friend or a HR manager, whichever way. Open a conversation. Mr. Robinson, is everything okay? Is there a way we can help? Do you understand? Mr. Robinson, is everything okay? Is there a way we can help? When my wife went to UK for the first time, there was a language she brought back to the house, and which of course was very instrumental. Are you okay? They asked that question a lot. Are you okay? We found out that question a lot could open up a discussion that somebody wants to talk because the person isn't really okay. What we look out for in the workplace, we look out for how to use employees to increase gains and productivity, but we fail to realize that the health and well-being of that employee and the productivity is a partnership that should exist, and we don't do that. So firstly is to find out from Mr. Robinson, can we talk? Understand the fact that most times when people have these conditions, they wrap it up, they're not willing to talk. So you must learn. That's why we recommend that employees should be trained in the issue of workplace mental health in general, because you can't manage what you don't know. So issue of mental health, employees should be trained, adequately trained. We're not saying they must be trained to become a professional that can treat or manage mental health issues, but to be able to know what to look out for. Somebody who used to eat so much in the canteen, he's not picking food. Food is no longer an issue. or somebody who doesn't used to eat so much, he's now eating food, even finish his own, eat his friend's own. These are issues we should look at. For somebody that comes to work, he's not able to leave the office, he's staying back, pretending to be doing other work in the office. Because when you look at mental health, it doesn't only come from the office, it also comes from the home. So understand that employee works has a home, he has an office, but I agree that we stay higher numbers of our work hours in the office. He also has a home. There may be some issues, underlying issues that are spirally from his home. Him stay back in the office, afraid to go back home. These are indicators that we should look at as employees and start seeing how you can engage the employee and talk to him. But understand the fact that until such employee can trust you, we can't talk to you. That's why we talk about issue of trust in the workplace, because HR processes has gone beyond what we used to know. Oh, let's no. We have to move beyond that, because as HR manager in the office, you have many children whose weaknesses and strengths you must know, and know how to deal with everyone in their own markets. And this is very important, because you can't say that, somebody has a mental health condition, it manifested in this manner. This has the next one manifest. People manifest these conditions in diverse ways. So there's no one type of approach. You need to know the person you are dealing with to be able to know what exactly to be there for someone.
And this is where I come in. There are some questions. I know that these are questions that will probably not be addressed fully here. It actually requires training. Maybe we'll have some people need to sign up to OSH University for some training on mental health. But anyway, I would ask this question. It's part of the comments on the comment box. It says, the first thing is to know what are mental health conditions. Yeah, this will help one to know exactly what to deal with, and than to just assume. I guess that's what the person is trying to say. Than to just assume people have a mental condition because they behave in a way you don't like.
Not necessarily behave in a way you don't like. Somebody behaving in a way you don't like doesn't mean that he has a mental health condition.
Exactly.
But it doesn't also mean that he may not have a mental health condition. You have to look at adjustments in the person's behavior, changes in the person's behavior. I mean, just like I know you, and I found out that all of a sudden you have become excessively irrational. You have become so, you don't accommodate anything anymore. You have become so rude, and a number of other issues that we look at. You don't look. You're looking so unkept lately. I should be asking, is everything okay? Do you want us to talk? You know, we should be looking at those issues, not really because you don't like the person, you just label him or feel he has a mental health issue. Observe, you know him, observe him with time, look at those changes that are coming in his behavior, and see how you can approach him. And again, most people have mental health issues. They look for who to talk to, and they can't find. As a matter of fact, a scholar wrote some time ago that the whole world has shortage of listeners. There are few people today that can listen to people. And you don't listen to blame game. You listen to build support. Most time when you listen, because there's what you call active listening. Just listen, let the person open up whatever it is and pour those issues out. Then you are not able to look at where the problems are and we are not saying you should blame the person. Oh, this is where you made. Oh, you should have done this. No, when you do that, you further aggravate the person's problem, and the person reclines and may not be able to open up to you anymore. Help the person to normalize everything. Yes, it is very normal. I've gone through it before. Normalize everything with the person, then begin to build support. Things that are beyond you, don't be too afraid to signpost the person to a professional where he can get further support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Iden, for that. So there's another question here. But before we go into that, I just wanted to emphasize what you've said. You said, I mean, what I garnered the most, one word I could use to summarize everything you said is observation. It's very, very important to observe and not to just issue query as an HR person or as a supervisor even at work. You should be able to observe the person's behavior before and the person's behavior now. And that is what we help in profiling. It's not something that you just say because the person is behaving in a certain way you don't like the other person has asked. Not because the person is behaving in a way you don't like, and then you say the person is mentally has a mental condition. So my co-anchor asked a question. While you said, is it right to say a separate ISO standard should be developed for mental health management system, or it should remain a subset of ISO 45001?
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that question. As a matter of fact, there is an ISO standard that should be launched that's focusing on psychosocial well-being of employees. As I got to know about that while I was in a meeting in Geneva. Some folks who were working on this in Canada. I think it's ISO 46001. I'm not so sure right now, but definitely that ISO standard is coming out very soon. I think I mentioned it in some of our discussions, and some of our colleagues also, they're already aware of it. That ISO standard is coming out that focuses on the psychosocial well-being of employees. As a matter of fact, I'm waiting because we are not ISO certified company, but that's the first ISO certification we are going to have. Because once that comes up, we are going to sign up on that, and we really need to get that certification, because that will be a big game changer in employees' mental health. It's extracted from 45,001. There's a different ISO. I think it's 46,001. I'm not so sure. You can check that one out. That ISO on its own is focusing on employees' psychosocial well-being. It's going to come out very soon. I think they're just doing the review right now. The next month, I think it should be out.
Okay, so what is our resolution for today, especially with regards to the question?
I think while we leave today and go back to our respective workplaces, let's first bear in mind that we are all humans. When we have that at the back of our mind, we will be able to manage employees and tolerate colleagues properly. Every man created by God is fallible. That employees made a mistake or couldn't meet his target is not enough for you to bring his head to the altar of sacrifice. Let's learn to understand employees' capabilities, what they can cope with, instead of loading them beyond what you know, even you yourself know that it's not realistic. Let's begin to look at employees holistically and rehumanize the workplace management structure. We don't need bosses in the workplace, we need leaders. Let's bring leaders into the workplace and let's take out the bosses. I must also say here that query is out of vogue. Let's have a dialogue. Engaging employees and having dialogue, I think, is more productive than flying query as if you are distributing DHL deliveries. We don't need more queries in the workplace, because firstly, get the employee engaged, find out why he did what he did, and talk him out of it. But when it become a dreadful place to work, people leave their home already afraid before they come to work. We need to train our managers and supervisors on how to manage human beings. The way you manage machines and equipment is not the same way you manage human beings. Well, let's train our managers on how to manage human beings. But while we say all this, let's keep in mind also that the future of work is already here with us, where we have to work with our robot counterparts. Robots will come in. Robots are not humans. As I sit with you and look at you, the look in your eyes will tell me this will not be good for you. Robot doesn't have such emotion, such feeling to look at you. Robots, as a matter of fact, what we told, what we read in some studies, most of the roles that have been done by human, even auditing, legal work, human resources are being assigned to robots in different parts of the world right now. When robots comes in, they are going to manage human beings without emotions. And this is where mental health, mental well-being of employee is going to be heightened. So before that comes, let's start looking after each other, knowing that we are in this together, and we must look after ourselves, our work in this place. Thank you very much.
Simply speaking, prevention is better than cure. Thank you so much, Mr. Ideye, for that expository session. I call it, I've learned a lot of things, and I'm sure the listeners have learned a lot as well. So I would call it a day with you on this live session. You can still be in the comment section with us, and then invite my co-anchor so that we can round off the session together. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for staying with us and listening in spite of the internet issues. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Ideye.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much.
Yeah.
How do I come out now?
Yeah, I think you can end your session.
How do I end it? Just click on the live?
Yes. Take off your live, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you. Good to have you back, Waliu, and thanks for being magnanimous for us to have this enriching session. Yes, thank you.
No problem, no problem. You're always welcome. You see, I think we can be up to 3. I'm trying to check that out. I think Instagram can allow up to 3 people to be at once, but I'll still confirm that. You see, when
really?
your boss
that would be nice.
Yeah, I'll still check. I'll still confirm. You see, when your boss is talking, when your guys is talking, you, nobody like us, we always keep quiet, want to learn, and I really learned a lot.
I'm telling you. But I like the fact that he said. I like the fact that he said that mental health issues is for everybody. It's for everybody to talk about. It's not just for the mental health experts. So, I mean, it gives us the credence. It makes us credible enough to be able to sit together and have this conversation. Because the more we talk about it, the more people will be aware of it. Don't forget that we have over 8, 9, 10 people that are with us, because Instagram gives lower numbers. And I'm sure that even with the record of this session out there on YouTube, on Instagram, we'll get more people to be aware of these issues and the need for workplaces to actually take the issues of mental health even more seriously. Have department for it, train the important workers like the HR, the safety experts, even in the workplace, the safety practitioners should know something. I mean, be able to do something about mental health when it comes to workers, not just medical health. Okay, so these are the things that we're looking at, and this is a message that we're putting out there. And I believe that everyone who has joined in has benefited, has learned something new, and has learned the fact that first we are humans before we become employees or workers.
Yes, I would like to add something very quickly. While he was going through the session, I really learned some things, and I would like to emphasize on them. Creating a department is very easy. You see, what I've always said is that it should be a default for every organization to have, for every company to have. Do you know why? Because even every day in Nigeria, for example, we do get a lot of bad news. A lot of news that will make you want to go mad. There's kidnap there, there's a bomb blast somewhere, there are a lot of issues in Nigeria alone that will make you to want to go mad. That alone is enough for you to have a department to handle. Now talking about the stress, someone who is working in Lagos, for example, that's working in Lagos, that goes through the traffic in Lagos, it's enough for a department to have that, for a company to have that department. Now, the work stress in the company again, coupling all these things together, I think is a default. Looking at studying Nigeria as a whole, is a default for every company to have this kind of department. And it can be as little as each department having a representative that observe the workers. So when they observe the workers, there will be another department that summarizes them all together. But there will be a representative from each department or each unit of the organization that would observe workers and give reports to the person that is the supervisor or the mental health manager or the safety manager that will analyze these results to know how to best address the issue of mental health. Like my boss just said, someone who doesn't eat before started eating anything, or someone who always eats started picking up on food, or someone who doesn't sleep at work before suddenly started sleeping, unless maybe he or she just got married. Maybe he just got married, so they will having sleepless nights. That one is different. But someone that is married already for years wasn't sleeping and started sleeping, or someone who used to be well is now not feeling well. All these are some of the observations that we need to have. We really appreciate everyone for the patience for having this session. I believe you all enjoyed this session. I believe you all have a great time having us here or having you here today. What do you have for our audience for the closing remark?
Well, the closing remark is almost like like an emphasis of what we've been saying. Always remember that we're first humans, whether as well, anywhere, at home, we are humans first before we become workers at the workplace. And mental health issue is an issue for everybody. It's an issue that everybody must be concerned, should be concerned about. And so we'd like to call it a day. We thank you for joining us. We thank you for listening. You can keep following us on our different platforms. OSEC Legal Aid Clinic is on Instagram as well on LinkedIn. We've been publishing articles out there, and you might want to pick on some of those articles to enlighten yourself, you know, on workplace safety, health and safety issues. Waliu runs a program on different platforms, podcasts, Podbean, YouTube, Instagram, creating awareness on health and safety as well. So I enjoy you all to follow us on those different platforms, and then we'll see you on another Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your presence. Really appreciate you. See you all next time. Be alive, stay alive to listen and to get attention to our next episode. It's going to be a wonderful moment again. It's going to be a very interesting topic that affects the workplace. Anytime you see our link for our event, always try to share to others so that we'll all come together and have a wonderful time together. Thank you all for listening. Bye.